second invited meeting. As soon as Pastor keeps it down there a little bit, let's talk. All right, this is the second of three that we're going to hold. The next one will be January 11th, I believe. Last week we talked about worship, Bible study, children's ministry. Before we dive into fellowship and outreach this week, does anybody have anything they want to bring up or go back to on worship, Bible study, children's ministry? Maybe after you thought about it for a week, you had an idea or something popped in your head that you want to share or bring up to the group. If not, we can just go right into fellowship and outreach. Derek Weiss heads up our fellowship ministry, staff minister as well. So he'll be leading the discussion today, and then Pastor's going to talk a little bit about outreach after that.
Good morning. Does everybody have a sheet that wants a sheet? So, at the top of the sheet, you'll see we've got the activities that we had planned for last year, for 2016, and then a tentative list of the activities for 2017. So, just to kind of recap some of the stuff we did last year, we introduced a few new things that we hadn't really either done in a long time or haven't done before. The clay pigeon shooting was something that we'll try to bring back. That really incorporated a lot of folks that haven't been involved in.
That was a blast.
Good one. Thanks, Wayne.
Blast.
Appreciate that.
I'm trying, man.
So, if there's any feedback on some of these events that happened over the last year that you'd like us to consider bringing back, some of them we will be repeating that are kind of annual events like Sky Ranch, Simple Game Night, the hockey game that we did last January we'll be doing again at the end of this January. We'll start promoting tickets for that as well. But basically, if you'll notice, our list is a little bit shorter for 2017 as it was for 2016. Part of the reason for doing that is to try to pick fewer events that we can put a little more energy behind and try to get more of the congregation involved in some of those. So some of those events that we're looking at kind of coordinating a little bit bigger. We'll have a family scavenger hunt. This is going to be something that we'll promote to the preschool families as well. Out in Old Town, kind of taking pictures, doing kind of like a little road rally thing that way. The trail cleanup we'll just do one time. Last year we tried to get it together a couple times and kind of have the same group of mostly young adults attending that. So we're trying to help. We can make a bigger barbecue, picnic to go with that in the park as well, and get more of the congregation to kind of take part in that trail cleanup. And then our worship in the park in Eudora is going to be more of a picnic, bigger picnic as well. We're going to go back to Eudora Park just to have that big open space to play kickball and volleyball and whatever, a little more space to play some games. With that being said, I'll kind of open up. We'll go through these questions here on the bottom. If you have any feedback on how our ministry is serving you, and if there are things that you like, things that we can do better, we'll just kind of start the discussion that way. Did you have something, John?
This is a little different than what the opportunities are that you're talking about here, but 2 years ago and before we had done fellowship dinners, which we personally enjoy. I don't know if there's any thought of redoing that program at all.
Like the dinner club? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Where you get the groups of, if you're not familiar, dinner club is something we've done in the past. Groups or couples sign up, and our families would sign up, and we would pair 3 or 4 families together, and the idea is that they would take turns hosting the rest of the group. So over the course of 4 months or 6 months, you schedule a dinner each time and either go out to eat together, but I know our group met one time, and it really makes a big difference to sit down and have a meal with somebody that's a familiar face. But the next time you meet at church, even after one dinner together, somebody put it really well. They just said it's a bigger hello. You know, it's a more genuine, friendly hello, just having had dinner once. So the goal is to do 4 times, taking turns hosting, but we can bring that back. I know that was feedback from last year too, and hadn't taken didn't get to coordinating the sign-ups for that. So if there's interest in that, we can bring it back for sure. Anybody else have thoughts for how things have been? Like, how did last year go? Any thoughts on the frequency of activities? Does it feel like there's too much going on, or too many things to schedule around? Makes it hard to attend, or?
I think once a month is good. That gives you a month to focus on something if you want to participate or not. I like you made a little printout magnet to put on the refrigerator. We have it on ours. I actually looked at that this morning, kind of seeing what was coming up. You know, just that awareness and having that little piece of information out there helps a lot too.
Yeah, we'll try to, once we kind of get this set in stone, we pick dates, we'll try to get this to everybody in the congregation and do the same thing.
Yeah, Dan, just a comment. There's a lot of variety of activities, which is great. And I think if there's as an individual, as a family, as a couple, whatever, if there's 1 or 2 that you can, because there's a lot of activities that may not, timing wise or interest level for may not be well suited, but if as a family or a couple or an individual, find 1 or 2 that if there's a new friendship made or a new deeper relationship established, that well worth it. And the couple that are coming to my mind would be the Eagles, the Eagles game, and having a meal ahead of time. Really got to spend some time with folks that otherwise regularly wouldn't have. And you mentioned the outing and the Donovans, the Clay Pigeon, completely different type of activity, and again, really getting interaction and have some conversation, get to know other folks. So I like the variety of activities, and I just think if you ask the question, is there too many? That's probably a individual question. Is what's just right or what's too many for yourself or your own circumstances? But really just a word of encouragement to everybody. If you can find 1 or 2 activities a year, it's really remarkable to either make some new relationships or deeper ones than seeing folks on Sunday mornings.
Thanks, Mike. Great. So the only thing I noticed is there's nothing during June or July, which can be the best months to get outside. And also because there's not school, unless we're out of town, it's still the time of year that we actually have time to do stuff.
To that point, the reason there isn't is because there's a lot of kids stuff in by the summer students.
Okay.
So we didn't do a whole bunch of church stuff. There's so much going on in the summer that the summer students do. We don't have that listed on here, but there's a lot of stuff that they're doing for the kids.
One thing too, like given the feedback with the clay pigeon shooting, I know that's something we didn't schedule because we hadn't talked to the Donovans about hosting it again. But that is something that we'll probably end up bringing back. And just talking about access into the mountains, maybe June would be a time to do that. But that's a good thing to be aware of, and as far as a whole congregational or like bigger planned activity, we'll probably keep that schedule relatively free, but it also could be something where as simple as putting a hike together to where we can kind of communicate to each other, like if we wanted to just do a hike, let me know if you're willing to meet up with people, and I can send out an email and help kind of coordinate that. Something pretty simple if you're doing it already. I'd be happy to help communicate those things if you're open to having people join you too. So it doesn't have to be 3 weeks of bulletin announcements and stuff in front of church to make it happen either. I guess one other question to ask is if anybody feels like they're not being served by the fellowship committee. Are there any gaps in the way that we're creating activities or events, or anything that we could do better if you don't feel like there are many opportunities for you to connect with people? That way, no feedback's good feedback. Hopefully, kind of the potlucks are catch-alls and the worship services that are a little bit different are kind of a good way to keep people together and hanging out as well. One other thing that I did want to bring up is that there is a little bit of overlap between fellowship opportunities and outreach. Given that we're talking about these two today, it's going to be part of our communication, and hopefully has been a little bit is that each of these fellowship opportunities they're for us to build the congregation for sure. But there's also an outreach aspect of it, which is an opportunity to invite a friend or invite a neighbor, talk to somebody that might have an interest in the same activity we're doing. So the clay pigeon shooting. If you got a friend that's into hunting, that might be a great way to connect them to people in our congregation without asking them to walk into the building. That might be a little bit intimidating. So there's always an opportunity with all of these events to kind of create an outreach opportunity to build friendships and build relationships. So I'm hoping that the communication can get that across too when we promote these events. But keep that in mind yourself too, that these relationships aren't just for us too. Like there's always an opportunity to have an invite. If we can start doing that, you just never know who might find a niche or a family that they've been kind of looking for that shares that connection around God's Word. So it's a great opportunity. Right?
What opportunities do you think, or have you talked about for like service opportunities in the community? Singing Christmas caroling at the nursing home. I know people have done cooking at the shelter before. Is there anything like that that's an opportunity that maybe we can get kids involved to kind of show them how to help out from a community standpoint and interact that way?
The main one that we talked about for this next year is going to be the trail cleanup in May. So we'll coordinate that towards the end of the school year and communicate that to the preschool parents. And if anybody's not familiar with what the trail cleanup is like, we have a segment of trail at Roland Moore Park, kind of right behind the tennis courts, if you're familiar. So it's a concrete path, about 6 feet wide, and really it's just walking around with grocery bags or garbage bags and picking up a cigarette butt or little pieces of trash. So it's a great kid-friendly opportunity. We'll give them rubber gloves and stuff. Yeah, just a great way to kind of show that we're out in the community. We've got a lot of people thanking us while we've been on the trail for doing that. So it gets noticed by people and appreciated. Pastor, go ahead.
Yeah, this doesn't directly apply within the community, but I know in talking with Dan from last week, where there's a great desire for youth ministries here, and a willingness to maybe increase hours of the staff ministry to get youth ministry done. One thing that he and I were talking about is that one way we'd like service to be part of the kids ministry. And one way to do it is to just at least start with all of the existing events we do have and say, could they serve pie for the Thanksgiving Eve worship service, or look at things. So we're gonna at least start there. If we get kids ministry going, to say, what activities do we have going on where we can say, you take this event and do it. So we'll at least start there too, even if it's not on the calendar.
And along that line, one of our newer members has an interest in kind of taking charge in service opportunities and kind of communicating and coordinating that. So we'll be talking about that too as we kind of develop what that's going to look like. I would like to open it up to everyone here just to see if you know of any resources or opportunities for service that we could consider as for this next year as we kind of create a volunteer program or a service opportunity program. Are you aware of any organizations or things, ways we can find out to get involved?
Yeah, Dan, just a couple thoughts come to mind. One would be a food drive for a local food pantry is a way. That's a very wide age appropriate service activity for adults, for kids of any age. Another idea would be if there's a member of our congregation in need of some yard cleanup, whether it's raking leaves or trimming some tree branches or something that needs some help. Again, that's another. As what I'm thinking about as we've got more kids growing into that middle school age category, that's another internal service. We've got food drive would be an external community service, and an internal service need is there a number of members that can use some help with yard work.
We did do that this year because we were called. Of course, I had everything done already. But next year
You're going to want to put that off a little bit longer next year.
But they did call and say, is there something in the yard that you need to have done? So that was started, just so you're.
The city has, if you call up front office and say, hey, we got a group who wants to volunteer, they'll send an email out to everybody and different projects throughout the parks system. You clean up leaves, clean up pine needles, just different parts of different things throughout the park system. That's a volunteer project that we get all the time too.
Okay. Cool. So hopefully we can get that ball rolling, and it really kind of depends on the involvement of the member that's willing to help out. And let me know if you'd like to be involved in helping with that. It's kind of an exciting opportunity and kind of a really great niche to be able to offer our congregation and the community with those opportunities. So if we can get that rolling, that would be great.
Maybe I can just make a plug for you and fellowship committee. I know it's nice to have this whole list of things we're doing and then talk about service opportunities, but someone's got to do it. And someone's got to organize it. It takes a lot of work communicating, organizing. You got to be here for the event. So fellowship ministry is a real easy ministry to be part of. As a member, a guy or gal, and you can take on one project a year and kind of spearhead it. So if any of you aren't involved already, maybe that's something to consider, because a lot of it, we can talk about these things, but I just feel a lot of it it's not going to get done if we don't have the people on that ministry to help out organizing the events.
And along that line, I definitely want to say thanks to the people that have been involved. Brian and Stephanie have been, year after year, been really consistent in helping out with these projects and giving feedback and trying and making them happen. Dane and Valerie Hansen, they just joined the church a year ago, and they've been very involved in making that happen. Lisa McKenney is there, kind of helping with the kids' perspective and the calendars and schedules. And Allison and Pastor always have good input too. So that's kind of been our team so far. And Caitlin Peridot just joined our last meeting, so if you haven't had a chance to meet her, usually second service, but all their help and input's been really appreciated. So you can talk to any one of them too if you have any ideas or suggestions for how things go. And with that being said, we can move on to the outreach side of things, and Pastor will take care of that conversation. Thanks.
I got it. See you later. So Christian Botten can't be here. So I'll just kind of head up. I've got a lot of thoughts about outreach, but before I maybe go there, I just want to open it up to you. What do you think about outreach? What do you think about St. Peter outreach? If you were asked the question, what would you like about outreach or anything, what would you say?
Yeah, Blake needs to greet everybody.
If Blake greets everybody, he's our full-time greeter, okay?
I mean, look at that smile.
Okay.
So cute. Look at him.
Smile will break you.
So, what do you think? Is the total lack of silence mean we need to do a lot more education about outreach? Or we don't know about outreach? Yes. Yes.
Education, I think, is a part because, we see people walk through the doors and just don't quite know what to say or how to get the ball rolling. So maybe a little bit of education saying, just I don't want to call it a script, but just something saying, just to make you feel comfortable when somebody walks through the door.
And you also don't want to be the 50th person to pounce on that person,
What's that?
You don't want to be like the 50th person to pounce on that person when someone walks
So
through the
maybe
door.
you're a little
So,
hesitant that way, have they been pounced
talked
on
to?
already?
Is everybody
I like
bombarded
pounced on
them?
better. No, point well taken, yeah. I think that thought is in the minds of some people. Allison?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but again, like you said, I think the preschool, unchurched families, preschool, reaching out to them, I think we're starting to do a great job at it.
Okay. What does that
Even encouragement, sharing stories of outreach amongst the congregation, where people invite friends, or they have a conversation with somebody that might not have shown fruits right away, but eventually it did. And a lot of times we think of outreach as knocking on doors and offering conversations, but really it can be a lot easier than that, with just casual conversations with coworkers and neighbors, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something forced. So from an encouragement standpoint, I think that could be something that's
Okay. Other thoughts? I know. Okay.
I think a lot of it does kind of come down to getting out in the community. And I think I can kind of contrast two things that we did in the last year in terms of their impact in that regard. We have the trail cleanup where we do something for the community and we have that sign there, but to my knowledge, so far when we've been doing trail cleanup, we never actually meet and talk to a person during that activity. On the other hand, we have Financial Peace University where at least some of us made some contact with some people who were there and got them to engage with our congregation a little bit more. So I think that's an example of the type of thing we need to do more of. Financial Peace is a really good thing for us to do, and we should find more examples of things like that where we give people in the community reason to get connected with us or to get into our building, and then we go from there. Because it's really hard to just approach random people on the street, and you don't always have those other life opportunities that just kind of fall into your lap. You have to create.
And the family life workshops that we've put on as well. Essentially Financial Peace was kind of an extension of that. But the parenting workshops, the marriage workshop that we promoted, so those are also outreach opportunities too. They're made to provide a service to the congregation, but then also something that you can invite a friend to or share as an opportunity with someone else for that purpose too.
So what forum do you think is the best way to do that? To get you that training, that information? having that dialogue? Is it maybe once a quarter, you just dedicate a Sunday between services to outreach? I don't know if it's most productive to try to do like a 6-week session on just outreach. Because you really need to study a Bible topic or a Bible book, but is that a good way to do it, or what do you think? Just kind of do once in a while, every couple months, kind of an outreach workshop that emphasizes. Let me ask you this, and maybe this is just the start of it. If you would summarize the heart of outreach, we talked about getting out to the community, we talked about a preschool, we talked about greeting people at church but not pouncing on them, and we've talked about all this stuff. If you had to summarize, what does outreach really involve in a couple sentences, what would you say? Yeah.
Well, I was thinking it's something I could use as today, because when you go out into your work world, that's where it's probably really significant.
Okay, so you describe how it's something we do every day. Good.
So I was actually thinking if I could do an email devotional, just your encouragement, I think that's huge for me anyway. Just an email with a...
So encouragement is part of it, but that's still not the what. And maybe you're already there. You're probably, you know what the what is, but, yep.
Be ready with an answer to share the hope that you have in Jesus. Whenever the topic comes up.
Okay, so our mission statement, be ready to give an answer for the hope we have. What do you want to add to that? The what? Magic, man. You did that. He goes around his head.
Wait till I snort it.
Yeah, wait till he sneezes at you. It could be worse.
He'll just rub it in.
Isn't that, so, we can talk about doing seminars, we can talk about Peace Financial and all these things, but I think that we have to be careful that we don't think, we did a Peace Financial and that's fine. Because really, outreach is telling somebody about the Savior they need. That's really what it's got to get to, otherwise you haven't done it. And if I'd ask you to tell me what is our number one best way that St. Peter does outreach, what would you say? There is a number one and there's a number two, I can tell you. Preschool is number two. Friendship evangelism is number one. If I look at 15 years of being here, by far, we've had our most members join by a person, a member. It could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance. It could be somebody at work. It could be somebody at school. It could be just somebody they know. They ended up telling them they need to hear about Jesus as their Savior, and they did something about it. They went to a big class with them. They brought them to church, whatever. That's the number one way. And now ever since we intentionalized the preschool, that's the number two way. Is that we target a BIC just for the preschool, we pay for babysitting for them, and we do other things with them. So those are by far, but both of them have the same thing. They only work because the bridge always got crossed and the people were always getting told about the Savior they need. There's plenty of other members that we have here that maybe have an opportunity but are not happening. They don't get into worship or big class because the person doesn't say, I think you need to come and hear this message about Jesus. Look at the joy I have. Or with the preschool, we haven't said, we're going to purposefully say, we got a big just for you, we pay for babysitting, and all the teachers need, no, they tell the parents, they target the non-church parents and say, you need this. So anyways, just so for your information, that's the main way we grow. So I think anything we do kind of has to fit that model where somehow we got to cross the bridge. Peace Financial's nice, getting into a community, talking to someone on a trail's good, but the real ways are the deeper relationships we have that are easier to cross that bridge. So anyways, any thoughts on that? I don't know if that surprises anybody. Pastor talked a lot, so he's good. So I think we'll continue to do workshops and stuff, but if anything, you know, I think it's just getting the courage to do that, right? To getting the training, I feel confident, I know what to say, so I can do that to family, friends, neighbors, workers, people at the gym. Anything else?
I'd like to borrow, like,
Borrow blade? It looks nice, but when you're in front of 40 people, it's a little different. I saw a hand, James.
Yeah, I think another area where our congregation could do better is.
Oh, I did shower this morning too.
Another area where we could do better is our online presence. If you look at our website right now, it's a bit dated and it doesn't have a lot of material, but I also don't see us doing really much of anything with social media. When I look at our Wells congregations in Castle Rock and Firestone, two newer churches, they have a lot of regular material shared, calendar updates, share all their events. A lot of the newer Wells churches now are also doing some video stuff. You see Jerry Oldenburg from Castle Rock regularly showing up and doing a short 60 or 90-second video. And I think where that really helps is not just to give that to your members, but I think a lot of us know how Facebook roughly works. You notice whenever your friends like something. And if all of our Facebook friends saw us liking these things in our church, they might look at them. In fact, they probably will look at them at least a little bit.
Good point.
And that could be a great way to get some big goals.
We've talked about that already. Dan's been working with Melissa Zager on some of those things. We already did get all of our sermons now are on YouTube, just to get that technology presence that that's
Yeah, but even there, if I think the social aspect of social media is
Right.
really helps. If none of us are even looking at the YouTube videos, odds are strangers are going to stumble upon that, right?
Yep, well taken. Absolutely, that's
Congregation is
it.
like part first.
Right. So it's an educational part on our part too.
And we have some stuff on Facebook, but I know Karen does a lot of stuff, tries to do some stuff on there. And our preschool, actually more recently, I've seen a lot more of our preschool on there. So every time I see that, I try and like those because that helps to spread that too.
Yeah, I agree with preschool. I think it's doing better than the stuff.
So we're starting to move on to the
Do we have anyone specifically focused on that aspect of church? The Facebook for church instead of?
Karen's been doing some stuff.
I know she does some, but I don't know.
Not so much anymore, it was just kind of having a website.
Yeah.
Dan kind of has done a little, or Allison has done a little bit.
Next week, Dan and I are kind of sharing that we'll try to get established so that we switch to this one. We'll have more time to. Yeah, Dan, I, Pastor, Lisa, she's fully integrated and everything to update our website and then we're moving into the school. So there are plans in the works to get that going.
And as far as who owns it down the road, we'll have to determine that. We'll at least use the students to help. They might end up, I mean, it's got to go get somewhere.
And it's a huge undertaking, I mean, so it's a lot of time,
Yeah.
so for anyone.
Anything else? Outreach wise. It's good to be done that way, I think. Be done. All right, thanks for your input, Dan. Looking forward to the kids program.